So the next demo is built off of this because what her original problem was she was using she was wanting a progress bar at the top of her survey, and she's using the older progress bar idea that we had, where if you have like 4 pages, you kind of create your own little progress bar and say that this is like 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%. So you're kind of faking the progress as you go through the survey. But she wanted to be able to have a progress bar at the top of her survey, so that way they could always be able to see where they are in that. And that gave me the idea that because we're not really doing a live progress bar, because you don't know exactly how long your survey is going to be, um, I thought that it would be better to have a scrolling progress bar for the page that you're on. So let me go to the survey here and open it up. And then this is a recover consent that want just an example. I use it because it's got like 25 pages of consent, so it's a long form. And you can see here that I have this progress bar here. So as I scroll, it locks to the top, which is the first thing. So that's the sticky header. But then we have this. It starts to fill up as I scroll. And if I just grab the scroll here and just go all the way down, it'll fill up completely once you get to the bottom. So it backs off. So this is using the CSS for the sticky header, but I'm also using CSS to design the progress bar, and then I'm using JavaScript to calculate the progress bar width as we go through, and I'm giving it a color. So I have this as just to kind of walk you through this, because there's 3 components. This is just a descriptive text field similar to what we have. This width is important because that's the width of this gray box all the way across. So it fits exactly in the width of the survey. And then what I'm doing is I have I have one container that's just kind of just a regular div that's just kind of holding everything. And then within that, I have this div container that I'm calling progress bar container. And then within that container, um, I have another div that's progress bar. And this has an ID, and this is what the JavaScript's going to use. Think of it like a glass that you're filling up. This container is the glass that is empty. And then as we're filling it up, the amount of liquid that we have in the glass is going to be this. It's not really its own container, but it's within that container. So there's 2 separate containers one's just there to kind of hold as a placeholder, and then the other one is there that is its width is being dynamically created as we scroll through the page. This is the same code that I had in the sticky header demo. What I'm doing, I'm still giving it the position sticky in the top of 0, but I am adding a width because I want it to be within the bounds of this survey window. If I leave that width off, this progress bar goes off the edge of the page and goes on for a long time. So I'm constraining it, and then here I'm putting the Z index because I want it to be the frontmost element. So here for the progress bar container, which is this light blue container here. So if we go all the way back up to the top, that's this container here. So it's the light blue one. What I'm doing is I'm giving it a width of 100%, which because it's within another div that has a width, it's giving it that width. I'm giving it a height of 20 pixels, and then the background color is the blue here, and then I'm giving a border radius of 10 pixels. That's giving the rounded corners on the side here. And then I'm setting this overflow to hidden because basically what the overflow hidden does is if you have a container, anything that's outside of the bounds of that container, you don't want to show. And I put that there because I was running into a problem where this this container had the rounded edges, but then as soon as you started scrolling, the dark blue would pop in, but it wouldn't be rounded. It would be a square. It would have the regular edge on it. And then it wouldn't be until you got about 5% in that it would round out. Um, so in order to mimic that the color is within this container, I have to use the overflow hidden. And then for the progress bar, the actual color, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just setting it to, I'm setting the height at 20 pixels. I'm giving it a border radius so that way it rounds out. And then I'm giving it a background color. And then we'll come to this here in a little bit. This is commented out. And then the important thing here is you're setting the width to 0. So the width here is 100% because it goes, you want it to by default stretch across the width of the survey, but you want this set to 0 because you want it to be basically invisible when your survey loads, because you're going to be at the top of your survey and you haven't made any progress through the survey. So the width of that is going to be 0. And then in the JavaScript, let me just add some so we can get this up to the middle here. So what we're doing is we're using a function that's on scroll. So basically when I scroll, I want to execute my function. And then my function is I'm assigning for the win scroll, I'm assigning the value of the scroll top. So that is just the element for the scroll here. And then for the height, I'm getting the height for the scroll height minus the client height. So that's giving me the height of this bar here. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking that that scroll top and I'm dividing it by the height and then I'm multiplying it by 100. That's giving me the value. So if I'm here, if I'm like 25% down the page, it's giving me, it's dynamically calculating the position of this in relation to the height of the client and the height of the window. Like basically how, because this is, the client is only this tall. So it's going from the top to the bottom here, but the page is longer than that. And that's where the scroll height is coming in here. So it's calculating that. And then what I'm doing is I'm applying this value, this scrolled value as a percent to the width of the bar. So this is the bar here. This my bar is the inner container that has a width of 0 by default. And then what I'm doing is as I'm scrolling, it's dynamically updating the width of this container here to whatever percentage I've scrolled. I hope that makes sense. So, and it's always from 0 to 100%. So it'll end when the page, when you're all the way scrolled down, and it'll start at 0. So what I have here is, let's go to the designer. And if we look in the demo, you won't see anything in the progress bar. But that's the HTML that I showed you here. So we just have the multiple containers, the progress bar container, and then the actual progress bar here. And then we're using JavaScript and CSS. So I have the CSS injector and the JavaScript injector both enabled. So in the injector, I just have this on the survey page for now, but I have my CSS code in here. And then in the JavaScript injector, I have the function that I'm using, and I have it enabled. And I have it set here and so instead of having it for all project pages, I just have always on for surveys, and then I'm injecting it specifically onto this demo instrument. So this other code here that I have commented out. So instead of having just a regular color, you can do a lot of cool things with CSS and background images and do patterns and things like that. So what this does is it gives us a striped pattern that's at a 45-degree angle. So if I go back to my injector here and we go down to the progress bar. So I'm just gonna, um, that's the next one. So I'm just gonna take this background off, and then I'm going to comment out this background, and then I'll show you what it does. So now you can see when I scroll, it's giving me just a nice background pattern, just something to add some flair to it. Um, and you can get this on, there's a bunch of like CSS background site like patterns if you want polka dots or if you want all sorts of things. They'll show you basically you can build your own pattern and then it'll give you the CSS for the styling to do this if you want to. Because basically what this is doing is I'm saying I want a repeating linear gradient at 45 degrees. These are the first, you kind of create your own, you kind of have a background color. Sometimes they just have transparent and transparent. But you're essentially layering multiple colors on top of each other. So I have a color this is one of the U of A blues that I have at 8 pixels, and then I have this at 8 pixels, and then I'm also duplicating it at 16 pixels. So um, if you look up in like W3 schools, it'll explain to you exactly how to build the linear gradient. I didn't go through all that trouble. I just kind of popped them into one of the generators and did that to get this. So using the HTML and the CSS and the JavaScript, we're able to have this scrolling indicator. And the important thing is that you're making sure that you're using this identifier because that's how the JavaScript comes in, or that's how it targets that element. And then we're using these classes here, which they could be IDs because we're only using them once, but we're using these classes here to apply the CSS styling to it. And then once again, I just found the name of the field here using the inspect in the design here. Let me go back to, oh. So if we right click and inspect on the progress bar, you'll see here that it's a table row and then the ID is progress underscore bar dash TR. And you can see that down here. So that's what I'm using to connect that, get the sticky header for that progress bar. And that's about it. Does anybody have any questions about that?
This is awesome, Manny. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I agree. This looks really cool. I can think of a number of places, especially on these consents.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you can see where you're at. Any of these long forms, it'd be nice to know how much further you have to go.
Yeah, and on the browser, I mean, you have this scroll indicator here, so you know how far you are, but on a tablet, you may not. And so this is a good visual indicator of how far you've come along. Now, if you had a multi-section form, and that's one of the things I might try to design next time is because really this is only going the scroll indicator for this entire thing. But if let's say you had 4 different sections that went from page to page to page, the scrolling indicator is not going to tell you anything about how far along you are in that process. It'll just tell you how far you are on the current page or the current section. So it could be something where you take this code here, and instead of it being divided by 100, it's divided by 100, but also multiplied or divided by however many sections you have. So maybe as you're scrolling through here, for example, instead of this being 100%, as you get to the bottom, it's only like 20% or 25%, and then continues on as you go to the next one. Because the thing is, if you did have this as another section, you would have to create another progress bar for every section because it's not going to stay as you go to the next one. So you'd have like progress bar 2, progress bar 3, progress bar 4, that's going to be the first thing at the top of your section as you go. So that's kind of the next thing I'm gonna try to work on is sort of implementing this feature for multi-section surveys. See if I can get that working.